Hello, this is Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Integrator. So happy to be joined today by Stephen Heywood, who is Product Evangelist with PTZOptics. Thank you so much for joining me, Stephen. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Oh, Dan, it's great to be here. I'm happy for the discussion.
So we're going to be talking a whole lot about hybrid learning today as it exists in current practice and the trajectory that it's currently taking. But I just want to start with kind of a meta level or a broad level question. That being the purpose of technology these days. I think a lot of times commercial AV over the years has been very focused on specs and very focused on, the speeds and feeds and things of that nature. I think we're much more focused right now on solutions and about the real core purpose of the technology, about solving problems. Can you talk about that on a philosophical level, the idea that integrators and technologies should be in the problem-solving business?
Absolutely. I know for the longest period of time, broadcasters have been saying, hey, you can do a lot more remote. You don't have to be in person all the time. There's things that you can do. And we found out in 2020, we had a major problem in school systems and in other venues, all of a sudden had to jump on the remote bandwagon, so to speak, and solve a problem that they never thought they'd face and they didn't know how to solve it. So one of the things with it is obviously connecting people in a way, bringing them together with technology.
Absolutely. And I think that's where hybrid learning comes into play. And certainly that is where it came into play at the onset of the COVID pandemic, where a lot of students in classrooms were fully remote. And now it's kind of more of a hybridized approach, and it may well be a hybridized approach well into the future. Why do you think, if you do in fact think, hybrid learning is the future?
Well, I think the model of the hybrid learning is the future because it's going to allow for, in my opinion, less missed days of school. If you're absent due to weather, you can still tune in via remote. There's ways of doing that. They've proven that. Now, whether they implement that, that's besides the point. I think that they can shorten a school year or make the school year the same length, but still get full days in. There's a lot of pluses to this, as well as just if you're sick, you can still attend class and not get an absentee mark on your transcript and whatnot.
Now, what about the affordability aspect of it? Is hybrid learning affordable to implement? Are there affordable solutions that facilitate a strong, robust hybrid learning environment? And if so, what are they?
Well, I think that there are a lot of schools right now that have laptops and Chromebooks and tablets at their disposal, that they have been instituting a technology fee, or it's just parents can buy them for their students in a way where they have that access. It's got a built-in camera, it's got built-in microphone, it's got everything the student needs to get started, and even on the teacher side. They have that ability and they have that right there, basically in the palm of their hands.
They do. And then, if you think about more integrated kinds of systems, those that our AV integrator readers might be working with, thinking beyond necessarily the laptops and some of the core components, you might need some specialized equipment if you really want to deliver a high class hybrid learning experience that's going to attract, a wide swath of people wanting to be part of this and feeling like there's really educational equity in that environment where it's not, I'm a remote student and I'm getting a second class experience versus an in-person student who's getting a first class experience. Those might include, lecture capture devices and other kinds of immersive kinds of technologies where there's genuine educational equity. What does PTZOptics have in that vein, or what at least can you opine on in that vein?
Well, I know with our cameras, we have a lot of solutions for this. As a matter of fact, we have our Simple Track Lite, which we just launched. That has the ability to track you. And so if you're the professor or you're the teacher and you want to give that, as you said, that immersive education experience through Zoom or whatever platform you're choosing, the camera will actually track as you're walking. It will follow your every movement, and you can even pinpoint it, say, on your whiteboard or your smart board, to where if you're moving about on that whiteboard or smart board showing an equation or some kind of history lesson, it will follow you and track you on that particular area, giving, as you said, giving that out of person experience, the same experience that you would have in person. And in many ways, it's a better experience because you're seeing it closer. What if you're at a university and you're all the way in the back, as we know a lot of these big universities are, and it's kind of hard to see. You get this great experience with a system set up like that.
And it really does seem like, again, you use the word experience, which is kind of what I started the conversation with. We're thinking about the student experience, the professor experience, wanting to make this seamless, not wanting to make the technology a burden or the technology a hindrance to real, genuine, high quality education. Do you feel like ease of use is of particular importance in that automation, the idea of, auto tracking, auto following? So the professor, whoever it is, doesn't even have to think about the technology. They can focus on educating or learning as the role calls for.
As a matter of fact, one of the things that we had in mind when we developed this camera was that, in fact, ease of use. It has the ability, you can just take it and plug it in USB. You don't need to go through the jumping and the hoops of capture cards and knowing what SDI does and HDMI. Now, if you are a seasoned broadcaster or seasoned individual who understands video, we have that option as well on that camera. We also have the NDI feature in it. So most things like Zoom are NDI compatible. You get it on your network and you're ready to go. And that was one of the things that we wanted with educators and those, to be able to just out of the box use the camera to up the experience for the students or whomever is using this. I mean, we have houses of worship that use these types of cameras.
So one of the things that I drew from the hybrid learning deep dive that I wrote, speaking to a number of different integrators, speaking to Avixa to get some data, things of that nature, NSCA, is that the opportunity seems most ripe or the ripest in the higher education space, but there are also opportunities in K through 12, and then of course, enterprise or corporate learning opportunities for hybridized learning or training opportunities. What is your assessment of the landscape vis-a-vis K through 12, vis-a-vis higher ed, and where the ripest opportunities are for embracing hybrid learning technologies and then the facilitating technologies to effectuate the results we want, like NDI?
Well, so that's a great question to ask, because over the last 2 years is when I really started getting involved in the school system, the local school system. I'm going to show you some pictures here of the broadcast teacher here getting acclimated with our PT Joy G3 joystick that we offer, and basically working with a skeleton crew, because again, they were still hybrid. They had some students coming in doing the production. You could see here, a simple setup in front of a green screen with some lights using the PTZOptics cameras. Basically, they're going over a script right now, trying to keep things within reach for 3 individuals to handle. You can see the broadcast teacher here is just getting things turned on and getting things situated. And then Dan, all the way out to a buddy of mine and myself, we actually live streamed graduation, because at the time we didn't know, where anything was going to be. So they had this in place ahead of time. They said, man, with what we're doing inside the classroom, let's just take it online, because grandma and grandpa might not feel safe to be in there with a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. So we gave them that experience, all the way out to seniors who had been working on an actual play. And here's a good video example. They were wearing shields. They were the only ones, the actors were the only ones there, and there was nobody in the audience except for me and my co-producer that I had on site. Switching cameras, we had a 4-camera setup, and it was a way that we could take what they worked so hard to do all year, and then the pandemic hit, and bring it out to the world. And so what they did was they sold some e-tickets, to generate some revenue for the drama club. But it was a way that we could put it together. I always say it looks like a Nickelodeon show, the way it's put together here. So it was a great experience for the students. The students loved it. And it was basically a 2-man operation, myself switching, and then I had another guy that was doing the camera. And then taking it one step further is the education process, where as they started coming back to school, I began the rigorous training of teaching them how to use the equipment to continue this. So in the event something happens down the road, we have this ability to give them this type of an experience online and not miss a beat, so to speak, where everybody's scrambling, trying to figure out how to do this. So working with these kids, getting them, acclimated to the equipment, if it frees up a lot of resources because you're doing it with 3 people. In many cases, there was a lot of kids there because we're trying to cross train, but you kind of get the idea.
Yeah, and I mean, it does, as you say, free up resources, and it also, going to show that performance aspect of it. People did feel so isolated and like they were missing out on so much during the pandemic. They might have worked really hard, as you say, on a play, a production, a project, whatever the case might be. They would feel like, well, no one can consume this. I can't get the accolades or the pleasure or the joy of the fruits of all of my labor. And for technology to be a facilitator to replicate, at least in some respect, that paying audience member enjoying the content I've created, enjoying the performance I'm putting on, it's really one of those things where AV is kind of a memory maker and a smile generator and a facilitator of happiness. And that seems to be the highest calling of our industry, doesn't it, in terms of not just a technology solution, but an enhanced experience to make people happy, give people those indelible memories that they'll never forget.
Absolutely. And this helps to future-proof the process, right? So even going forward, a lot of the school systems that we worked with, my buddy and I, and even us with PTZOptics, they've taken and embraced the live streaming aspect. And even though now things are starting to calm down, people are doing more in-person events, they are actually still going the route of streaming graduation. They thought it was, it was such a hit. It was like the world woke up and said, wow, we have this technology. Why aren't we using it? Even if you can do in-person events. And I think that's going to be the norm going forward. We kind of saw this coming for a while, but like with anything, it takes something sometimes to grab everybody's attention, say, you need this. And now if something like this happens down the road, I don't think people will be caught too off guard.
I agree with you. And I think it's an opportunity that integrators are eyeing very, very closely. When we did our hybrid learning deep dive, as I say, there were a slew of integrators across the country, various sizes and even various specialties, who were all looking at this opportunity and finding ways to monetize it, and more importantly, finding ways to serve their clients and give them the results that they want. And obviously, an organization like PTZOptics, with its lecture capture devices, et cetera, is at the vanguard of facilitating those experiences. Is there anything else from the PTZOptics point of view you would like to share with our audience?
Absolutely. So if you're thinking about this, if you're an educator or an integrator working with education, we have a host of products that you can check out, not just our Simple Track 2. We have some other types of cameras that you saw in this demonstration that can fit a particular need, all the way down to simple webcams. So give it a look, and you can see, like, through the productions that we were doing, these students in these schools are really happy with the results.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen Heywood, product evangelist with PTZOptics, for joining me today. Really appreciate your insights as always.
I thank you, Dan.
My name is Dan Farisi, editor-in-chief of Commercial Integrator, and please check back on commercialintegrator.com regularly for more great content just like this. Thank you very much.